Now welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Some Star Wars, where this time we'll be taking a look at the results of the poll that asked, how have you been feeling about the first 3 episodes of the Book of Boba Fett? I'll then of course be reading and responding to some of the comments left on that poll, which means if you haven't seen those first 3 episodes, do be warned there are going to be spoilers in this video, so you may want to click away and come back after you have caught up. Alright, and let's now jump right in with the results of the poll, where we'll see that 20% of voters said it's been fantastic so far, and they're loving every minute of it. 43% of voters say it's been good, but certainly not great. 15% say pretty average so far. 9% then say not good, this is not the series they were looking or hoping for. And then there's a final 13% who don't want to judge it quite yet, who probably don't want to judge it till the whole season is over. And personally, I put myself in the it's been good, but certainly not great category. There have been things I thought have been excellent and I've really enjoyed, and other things that could be much, much better, I feel. And to really dig beyond the numbers now, let's move to your comments. But not before I once again just say thank you to everybody who votes, comments, and watches the videos, especially to the people who leave the comments. I'm always amazed at how many people do take the time to leave them and leave some very well thought out comments that oftentimes don't make the videos, and I'm sorry for that. I do read each and every single comment. I love that I get the chance to get this perspective from the fandom, and that's one of the things I love about doing what I do. But anyway, thanks to everybody out there who participates in these polls. And so now let's start, as we always do, with the top-rated comment, which this time came to us from Mortal Creature, who said, I have been really enjoying the show up until episode 3. It feels like a lot of the scenes were just not given enough time. The Black Chrysanthemum fight was underwhelming. The Wookiee is one of the deadliest bounty hunters in the galaxy, and he couldn't even kill one Gamorrean or cyborg teen, let alone his target. The teenage bikers were really distracting to see on Tatooine. They were way too clean to be living on the desert scrap planet. Overall, they seem alright, but they belong on the lower levels of Coruscant, and I definitely think this show's grittiness potential is suffering under Disney's name. That being said, I'm so hopeful for the rest of the season. And first of all, I do agree the bikes, or the space Vespas as a lot of people are calling them, didn't really fit the motif of Tatooine, and they were way too clean. I think we know why the biker gang is stealing water. They are constantly having to wash these bikes in order to keep them looking that pristine and that clean on a planet that is covered with dust and sand. Anyway, as for the fight with Black Chrysanthemum being underwhelming, which you point out and many others pointed out in their comment, and I've seen a lot of people just in general saying that, I do agree it probably could have been better. I think one of the problems with it is that, Black Chrysanthemum is a giant gladiator Wookiee. He should have literally been able to pick Boba Fett up and just snap his back or his neck pretty much instantly. Same goes for the Gamorrean guards, and certainly goes for the cyborg teen gang. Now sure, they live on the streets of Mos Espa, they probably know how to fight, but they wouldn't stand a chance against a gladiator-trained Wookiee. Basically, there was no way for this fight to look good or realistic without taking out at least maybe the Gamorreans or a couple of the teens, or maybe both of them. And of course, they're not going to do that because, well, it ties into the last part of your comment there that this is Disney, and I don't think they were going to just have this brutal scene of a Wookiee just, barehanded killing all these people. And you can argue, yes, there has been some pretty good violence in other episodes of Book of Boba Fett, and certainly what Boba Fett did to the stormtroopers in The Mandalorian. It's not completely kid-friendly, but at the same time, yes, this does feel a little Disney-fied overall. Which kind of brings us to this comment from Macho Duck, who said, these episodes have convinced me that the real Boba Fett did indeed die in the Sarlacc pit. The character that we see in this show is an imposter. It's a surviving clone trooper cosplaying as Fett. And like I was just saying, the series does feel a little Disney-fied, and one of the things I was really curious and kind of worried about going into it is I didn't know how Disney would handle having a sort of anti-hero protagonist in a Star Wars show. I didn't know if they would kind of go all in on having a more, I don't want to say necessarily violent, but certainly a character who is ruthless and will do whatever he has to do to get a job done, who is not afraid to kill people who are in his way. That's kind of how I've always seen Boba Fett. He's a guy who will get the job done no matter what, and he's not going to go out of his way to kill you, but he will kill you if you get in his way. Anyway, the character we're getting in the series, at least in the modern tense, is not like that. He's kind of the opposite of that. He is doing whatever he has to not to kill people to earn respect another way, and you can love that, you can hate that, but it seems to be not so much a decision based on this is what we think the character would become, even though, yes, they are setting up the flashbacks very well with the Tuskens, don't get me wrong, but it seems to be more of a decision that, well, we wanted to make a Boba Fett series, they wanted to make a Boba Fett movie years ago, but we can't have it be the type of character that it would be, this ruthless bounty hunter, so we have to change him into something that is more acceptable. That's just how I feel about it. I feel like Disney, again, really just wanted to use and capitalize on the character of Boba Fett, a very popular character, but they didn't want to give us the character that he is. They wanted to create something that would be more acceptable, and so they're actually using the series that they wanted to create to make him something more acceptable. And again, that doesn't mean you can't love the series. That doesn't mean I don't enjoy the series, but I kind of see this as being, we want to use Boba Fett, but we don't want him to be what he is. So let's use the series we're making to make him what we want him to be, if that makes sense. Okay, let's now move on to this comment from Dallas Clark, who said, I really think making each episode an hour long would help tremendously. More time to flesh out characters, story, and dialogue, especially if we're only getting 7 to 8 episodes a season. I really dislike 30-minute episodes for a live-action Star Wars. Drove me up a wall in Mandalorian, and now here we are as well. And though I never want an episode to be longer just for the sake of being longer, if you can tell your story in 35 minutes, if you can do everything you need to do in an episode in 35 minutes, I think that's fine. In this case, with the Book of Boba Fett, I think there is more they could be doing in each episode. I talked about it in my review of episode 3. So far, we are literally only getting Boba Fett's perspective. We don't venture beyond that at all. And you could say that's exactly what it should be. It's called the Book of Boba Fett. It's a slow burn. It's his story. That's great. Yet at the same time, we don't know the motivation of any character beyond Boba Fett, and we don't really entirely know Boba Fett's motivation just yet. We just sort of have things happen, like the twins show up in one episode and they're going to claim Jabba's old territory, yet in the next episode they just back out and say sorry for all the trouble, and they leave a Rancor and say do what you want with Black Chrysanthemum. And like, that's it. That's all they do. We don't have any idea beyond them being Hutts. And if you don't know Star Wars, that doesn't mean anything to you. But we don't know any motivation beyond they just want to take over this territory for the sake of taking over this territory. Same goes for the mayor. In one breath, we're told he has no power. In the next, he is giving Mos Espa to the Pikes. And we don't know, what the Pikes want Mos Espa for. We don't know really anything beyond, what we see or what Boba Fett is basically told. And then, as many have pointed out, it's all about Boba Fett just reacting to what he gets told. There's no sort of Boba Fett going out there and kind of laying claim to everything or feeling like he's actually out there being proactive. He just seems reactive. But anyway, let's now move on to this comment from Bloblob, who said, the flashbacks may not be the best technique for the story. You get ripped away back and forth between what's happening now and what is memory too much. Maybe a continuous storyline would be better, but you get a lot of Star Wars flavor. Then there's also this one from Ben Ryan, who said, I was impartial after the first 2 episodes, but episode 3 has made me realize how little I'm enjoying the show. The weird thing is I love all the story elements, it's just the execution seems so sloppy and the direction is all over the place. And I do agree it does feel maybe a bit disjointed the way they're doing it, with the flashback as integrated with the current timeline or the present tense of the story. And maybe it would have been much better if it was just a linear story, if episode 1 was everything with the Tuskens, everything from him being found, all the way up to them eventually being killed, and then that kind of sets him down the path that we'll see in the current timeline. They then could have released the first 2 episodes on day 1. We could have got the Tusken episode, it could have been roughly an hour long, and then another hour-long episode of the current timeline or the present tense, and I think that may have worked better. And granted, I don't know what else they have planned for flashbacks. It seems like we're pretty much done with the Tusken flashbacks, all things considered. So who knows? If there aren't many more flashbacks, it may have just made more sense to have the Tuskens all in one episode and then to move on from there. Okay, next up here we have a comment from Clifford Mann, who said, a lot of build-up and backstory that hopefully leads to a grand finale that does the character justice. And though I of course hope that all the build-up and backstory is leading to an epic grand finale and that the character is done justice in the end, I of course want to see all that, but you have to make the build-up or the lead-up to it be worthwhile as well. I see a lot of people saying, give it time, keep giving it time, in response to any sort of criticism levied against the series at this point. But the thing is, the build-up also has to be good and entertaining. It also has to hook you. It has to keep you on the line until you get to that grand finale that is fantastic and mind-blowing. You have to enjoy the ride. You have to enjoy the journey, not just the destination. And I'm not saying that isn't happening here with Book of Boba Fett. I'm not saying these first 3 episodes aren't hooking people, but I think it is still missing something in the current timeline, in the present tense, that really has you wanting to see where this character is going to end up in the end. Alright, and now let's get to just a few final comments before wrapping this up, starting with this one from Big J, who said, "The Tusken moments have by far been my favorite because there is little dialogue and the audience has to create their own interpretations of events. Also, the bar fight and the train raid have been the 2 best fights scenes so far. As for the criminal empire, I think Disney is afraid to make Boba a killer. So far it's worked out for him, but I hope at some point there's consequences for him going easy on enemies. I personally don't mind the speeder gang, but I can understand why people may take issue with them. They certainly conflict with Tatooine's feel, but they seem like a group that could be interesting. But dear God, why was that chase scene so slow? It took out so much tension. My guess is that Favreau wanted it to be practical, but I would honestly have preferred a CGI chase. Overall, one thing is for sure, Favreau needs to explain why and how Boba is much more sympathetic than he was." Next up, we have this one from Ace Fox 1, who said, "They're going to have to do better than dances with Tuskens and how Boba got his groove back if they want me to keep watching. There's potential in the show. They need to give us something unexpected and compelling to drive the story like Grogu in Mando. No disrespect intended, but so far watching an older actor fist fighting like he has arthritis while walking around encased in miles of plot armor has been underwhelming to say the least." Then there's this one from Comic Sam's, who said, "I like what I've seen so far, loved seeing Black Chrysanthemum, that made me squeal, and fleshing out Boba and the Tuskens has been great, and I know they're likely building up to a bigger rush in the last few episodes, so I'm just waiting to see how it pays off before I make any real judgments." Also, then we have this one from Darth Malik, who said, "It's been good, but not great. I feel like a lot of the fan expectations were super high for the show since we were told it would be all killer, no filler. Also, I'm pretty sure it was said that all scenes from the trailer would be in episode 1, but 3 episodes have gone by and there are still scenes we haven't seen. Another big point of contention I've seen is people saying that Boba Fett is too nice and not as threatening as he should be. Hopefully, he can become someone who can control a room without speaking like people want him to be by the end of the show. P.S. The bikes from the street gang seem like they fit Back to the Future more than Star Wars." Also, here we have this comment from Dave Faust, who said, "Boba Fett is not the underdog anti-hero or the incredible badass that is supposed to wow us. He's something in the middle, and it makes me unsure how the producers want me to perceive him, but he's still Boba Fett, so a B for me." Moving on, we have this one from Goji Wars 03, who said, "I just kind of wish they weren't so hellbent on making adult Boba likable. Like, can we not have a show about a character who is literally primarily known for being a cold, ruthless, and efficient bounty hunter? I also feel like they just nerfed his abilities in general. I noticed this even in Mandalorian Season 2 when he gets beat up by, I literally had to Google her name, Casca Reeves. It feels like they're trying to diminish Boba's legacy status in the franchise, and I don't like it. His introduction in Season 2 of Mando was near perfect, so why can't we have more of that?" Then we have this comment from Griff's Custom Lightsabers, who said, "I enjoyed first 2 episodes with hopes it would get better as things went on. This episode went the wrong direction for me. I felt like I was watching a cheap knockoff from the 90s. I'm really worried what they'll do with Kenobi." Then we move on to this one from HH Knight Reviews, who said, "The show is a pleasant watch, but I haven't had the oh my god, I can't wait to see what's next moment yet. The Mandalorian and all 5 MCU shows kept me eager for more. Come to think of it, I was more excited on Wednesday mornings for new Monsters at Work episodes than Boba Fett, and I'm in my mid-40s. Next up, this comment from Hillary E, who said, "I didn't enjoy this episode as much as I had the first 2. Killing the Tusken tribe seemed premature to the plot. I really wanted to like the body mod gang, but as other folks said, it didn't seem too much with the vibe of Tatooine. I did enjoy the bike chase and the fight scene more than it seems others have. I don't know, something just felt off about this episode, like they were trying to imitate Star Wars instead of being Star Wars." We also then have this one from Jared Locke, who said, This last episode was great. It's been fun, watchable, and good. But this last one expanded the landscape. Dude has a Rancor now. He has a clear target. He fought Chrysanthemum. It's starting to get dope. I have every faith in Filoni and Favreau that this will be on par with Mando Season 2. And finally, here we have this comment from King V Reborn, who said, I usually judge a show by waiting till the first season is done. It's how I judged the sequel trilogy. I kept holding out hope that they could somehow pull off a success until the end of the trilogy. Now, obviously they failed, but I still kept this policy for the Bad Batch and the Book of Boba. I think that we should keep waiting until the end of the show, because there's still a chance that the last few episodes would pay off all of the setups and talking. Well, that's all I've got for this time. Now it's your turn to tell me what you've thought of the Book of Boba Fett so far, or what you think of what I or anyone else has said about it here in this video. So leave a comment below and let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.